Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome. It is Sky Houston here with Magic 102.1. Super excited to be talking about something today that's near and dear to my heart. Why? Because I believe in building generational wealth. I believe in passing the torch, but we can't pass anything that we don't first have. So today on Cyber Monday, I'm excited to be having this conversation with an esteemed panel of guests that will be joining me in just a second. First up, this guy, I like to call him friend. We had this long conversation just this week on what it means to be friends or family or family. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to welcome to this live today as we celebrate Black Entrepreneurs Week. Black entrepreneurship is so important. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stream, Philip Yates. Philip, are you there?
Hey, Sky, what's going on? Good evening.
We are back. Good evening. I'm excited to have you on. You guys, Phil is the founder of this Black Entrepreneurs Week. He is also with Equal Liberty. Phil, please let the people know, first off, why did you deem it important to start Black Entrepreneurship Week? Why a whole week?
Yeah, no, the timing of it was significant. Around this time of year, we start our holiday shopping. This is when we start really spending a lot of money and then making goals for the next year and understanding the buying power that we have in our community. We talk about $1.4 trillion. We wanted to highlight that, underline it, and then figure out ways how can we activate that so that we can start circulating those dollars in our community. So it was perfect timing 3 years ago. Sky, you've been with us from the very beginning when Black Entrepreneurs Week first started. Now we're on year 3. And it's just gotten bigger and better every year. So I'm hoping that through this conversation like we're having today in our 8 days, 12 events, we want to get more resources for our community. Also, we're able to unlock capital opportunities and really just uplift the Black entrepreneurs community so that we can take a step closer to meeting some of those goals and hopefully unlocking that $1.4 trillion.
Yeah. Now, I said this is an entire week of events. Would you, if you don't mind, let us know what can we look forward to already at Cyber Monday today? What else is in store for this week?
No, absolutely. So just in case I miss it, make sure you go to www.blackentrepreneursweek.com so that you can find out all the information on other events. This was an 8-day, 12-event program. We are on day 3. Starting tomorrow, you'll be able to kick off the Black Wealth Summit, which will be at Emancipation Park Conservancy. We also have some streaming options for those who can attend in person. 3-day event. It's going to be excellent for anybody in the wealth building process, no matter if you're trying to figure out, how do you get your financial house in order? How do you acquire real estate or use investment property to build wealth? And then most importantly, in my opinion, is how do you transfer it? Like you said, Sky, we're talking about building generational wealth, and how can you pass something down if you don't own it? And so we're going to take 3 days to really break that down with the experts so that you can walk away with a wealth plan. Not to mention, we'll be honoring some of our women here with Unlock Her Power on Wednesday. Thursday, for the fellas, we'll have Invest in the Culture. Friday is Black Founders Day. It's one of 2 pitch competitions. We'll be giving away $20,000 to a tech and innovative startup, similar to like the gentleman we're about to, speak with here soon. And on Saturday, we'll close it out at the Houston Area Urban League with the Small Business Exchange. For those who have small businesses, you also can pitch for $20,000. Wouldn't be possible without our partners like JP Morgan Chase, the Houston Area Urban League, and Dell, and many other partners like yourself, Radio One, and others who really care about the Black community, not only in Houston, but across the country.
Yes. And let me ask you this. If there's somebody watching who says, well, I'm not a Black entrepreneur, I'm not even sure if that would be something for me. Could this whole week still be for someone who says, I'm not an entrepreneur, or I haven't decided to take that leap yet?
Absolutely. I mean, we're trying to build pathways for economic mobility and building wealth. And no matter if you're still a full-time employee or you are an entrepreneur, we all should be trying to build wealth and figuring out how we can build generational wealth. And that's what this week is all about. And so if that's you, please go to our website, check out some of the other events, follow us online at Black Entrepreneurs Week via Instagram, and obviously chime in on the conversation. I mean, we got 2 phenomenal panelists that I think you can learn a lot from. So your wealth building journey starts right now.
Yes, it does. And let me say this, whether you're tuning in live right now, you're catching this on replay, make sure you stick and stay, because there's going to be some information that's going to stick to you. I believe you're going to hear something today that's going to really make you take that leap. With that being said, the theme for this week, or for today at least, is reimagining Black Wall Street. What made you grab a hold of, or try to paint the picture of reimagining Black Wall Street?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think without giving a history lesson, I think we're all familiar with what happened to Black Wall Street and the economic power that we had at that time when people were working together, when we had our own stores and we patronized our stores. And obviously, fast forwarding today, we still have that opportunity. And we saw just on Saturday with Black Market Houston and Jail Malone, with the power we have when we come together and we support our Black business owners and small business owners and others, our entrepreneurs out there. And we figured everybody doesn't need to have a brick and mortar. And so we wanted to use Cyber Monday, which is traditionally or nationally a holiday, for us to go shop online and start looking towards some of those other entrepreneurs that are starting online businesses or tech and tech-enabled companies to actually build generational wealth. And we now believe that leveraging technology may be a way to accelerate that pathway to economic mobility. And so we want to bring on experts like the ones we have today to talk about different pathways, whether it's building a technology startup or is leveraging venture capital to accelerate the growth of your enterprise.
With that being said, Phil, thank you for that. With that being said, I'm super excited to welcome in the man of this hour. I don't know when I first saw him. Somehow I stumbled upon him on, it could have been Instagram, but I have been hooked like a book since I found him. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stream today. You've probably known about him in the music business as a music producer, as a songwriter. You may have even seen his voice or heard his voice. If I take you back, if you're old enough to remember, the voice of the chef on South Park. Please, ladies and gentlemen, that probably wasn't supposed to be part of his intro, but ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stream today, Isaac Hayes III. Please bring him in, sir. Welcome to the stream. Welcome, welcome.
Hello, how are you? How you guys doing?
Wonderful.
Well,
Please let me formally announce that he is the CEO of Fanbase. This entire conversation that we're talking about today on Cyber Monday, we're talking about building community. I mentioned building generational wealth a second ago. Phil mentioned it. But what I find more important about the guest today, our guest today, Mr. Isaac Hayes III, above everything, he's building business, but he's building community. Would you say that's one of your goals, Isaac?
Yeah, absolutely. Building community and disruption. It's a simultaneous and generational wealth. It's kind of a three-pronged ideology, but definitely community building is a huge part of what Fanbase is.
Mm-hmm. Could you share a little bit about what Fanbase is for people just tuning in who've never heard about Fanbase? Give us an overview of what Fanbase is and what it does and can do for entrepreneurs.
So Fanbase is a first of its kind social media platform and native app that allows you to have followers and subscribers on the same profile page. And if you so choose, monetize your content via subscription.
Mm-hmm.
It's for any person on the planet. We're on iOS and Android in 190 countries worldwide. And so it's just really here to be like the successor platform to these platforms that we've been using the last 10, 15 years, 20 years, like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm just here to bring a new spin on what's coming to the future of tech.
And tell me this, talking about the future of tech and we're talking about Black entrepreneurship. What made you say, or what was that moment that made you say, listen, they've been doing it, but they're not doing it as well as I can? Or what put you in position to say, hey, I see what they're doing, but it isn't for us? What gave you that gumption to say, I'm going to do it and I'm going to do it better? What was it?
A 17-year-old kid from Memphis, Tennessee, who went viral for dancing in a Spider-Man costume that I saw on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And I shot him a DM just to congratulate his success, because I was just like, somebody from Memphis is like doing some really cool dancing and stuff, and in this Spider-Man costume, it was really great. And he hit me back and asked me if I was a manager and if I managed, social media talent. And I didn't at the time, and I still don't. But I was really wondering, like, how can he capitalize on this moment to the utmost, potential,
Mhm.
but he doesn't own Spider-Man and he doesn't own, the IP to that. So Marvel or Disney could tell him to stop using their intellectual property whenever they want to. But he could really dance. He's a really good dancer.
Mhm.
So I was like, we need an app where people can subscribe to people just like we subscribe to Netflix,
Hmm.
right? I wanted it to be a social media platform. So I wanted it to feel like an Instagram or a TikTok or a Twitter. Like I wanted to have the familiarity of a community, but
Mhm.
also the optionality of a fan base, a subscription section where people can monetize their content to the people that decide that they want to see extra content from our people. And that was the birth of fan base.
Wow. So let's take it back for a second because I'm trying to figure out what would make your brain say, how do we connect this to the end user? Direct, it's almost not, it's business to business, or it's not business to, you know what I mean? You said, I want to find a way we can cut out the middleman or have some ownership in who we are and who our fans are without there being any restrictions. So take me back. You're based in the music industry.
Mhm.
Take me back to first, how did you get into the industry for yourself? We know your father is the legendary musician Isaac Hayes, but what did that look like for you coming into the industry and making your own path? And what does that say, or how did that shape you getting into it as a businessman? Because being a musician or being on the creative side is totally different from doing business. So where shape that up for me? How does that happen?
I think, growing up, my father had a lot of challenges and a lot of um, really terrible things happen with regard to ownership of his content.
Mhm.
So at the time, probably a year before I was born, my father had to file for bankruptcy because he took out a loan and a loan from a bank to cover the debt that was owed to him by his label at the time, which was Stax Records. So at the
Mhm.
time, Stax Records in the 70s, like 74, owed my father about $12 million worth of royalties.
Wow.
And they filed for bankruptcy. My father borrowed $1 million. So he had to file for bankruptcy. So they never paid him his $12 million.
Wow.
So because of that, he lost the rights to a lot of his music. It
Mhm.
was stripped away. They were actually sold. And they were sold, and all this IP was sold before even sampling came around.
Mm.
Now imagine when you go through the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, and Dr. Dre and Jay-Z and Snoop Dogg and everybody is sampling all these records that you're creating, and you're generating, hundreds of millions of dollars,
Yeah.
and you don't see a penny of that. That's going to people that don't look like you, that bought your your writer shares at auction. And
Mhm.
so it really changed the course of my life in a way that I had a very modest upbringing. I'm a child of a superstar, but I did not live the life of a child of a superstar. And so I wanted to learn about the business of music when I decided that I wanted to be involved in music. And my father wanted me to learn that business as well. And so I took a real heavy interest into music publishing, masters, rights, ownership, how that works. And I ventured into the music industry. And what I found is that there is no business more grimy than the music business. So, but I was able to navigate that to a space where I didn't necessarily want to give up my rights or sacrifice a lot of the things that I saw my contemporaries were doing at the time. So I
Mhm.
decided to monetize my music through licensing, which I
Mhm.
did these songs in this movie called ATL with T.I.
Mhm.
Um, and Big Boy and Lauren London. I had done all these records. And so it allowed me to license my music and still own it, but people use it. And I made a lot of money doing so. And then that just opened my mind that maybe I should just do this all the time. So I don't have to worry about, really trying to fight on, get on all these albums and stuff like that. So that led to a career of licensing my music for a good, decade or so, which I would just go to the mailbox and get money, live the life that I wanted to live, and still pursue other interests that I had at the time. And so that knowledge of understanding how the music business works, I had no knowledge of the tech industry. So I
Mhm.
had to take what I knew about music and apply that to what I saw in the tech landscape. And so the people that taught me about tech, my mentors that taught me about tech, they gave me the framework, but I said, okay, once I had the framework, I said, okay, so you're saying that the VCs are the labels,
Mhm.
startups are the artists, and the App Store charts are the Billboard charts. So if I were to go take money from a VC right now, it's like signing to a record company and not having any buzz. I'm not hot in the streets at all. I have no buzz, nothing, not at all. So I said, I don't want to do that, because in the tech world, that first 200,000, 50,000, whatever, $25,000 that you get, you give up a good sizable portion of equity to your company. So what I did was I went and borrowed against the royalties that I was making from putting my music on shows like Real Housewives and Married to Medicine and Love and Hip Hop and the NBA on TNT, and said, let me borrow $200,000 of that money, which I needed to be doing other things with. But I said, I'm going to gamble and build fan base. And so I bypassed that first initial, that early, that pre-seed capital, that friends and family round.
Yeah.
And was able to build the startup that way.
Do me a favor, before you leave that mark right there, for an entrepreneur who's thinking about getting into tech or anything like that now, talk a little bit about, or explain to them what that first round of seed money, what that is exactly. And then let's go to the next level.
Yeah. So in that pre-seed round, you're really trying to get enough money to build a prototype of what you think your product could be. So you're trying to say, okay, this is what could be the makings of a great company, but I want you to see a physical product or something that's tangible that I think would allow people to kind of get the vision more so better than looking at PDFs or images and slides and stuff like that, and you trying to explain it. It's something three-dimensional that you can touch and say, okay, now I kind of get it. And so therefore, a lot of people do incubators or pitch competitions, stuff like that, and they try to find ways to make money that way. So that's that early pre-seed round, and that's anywhere between $25,000, $100,000 or so to be able to build something like that.
Okay. Now let me ask you, now that we gave y'all the introductory seed money, how do you go to raising $6 million in seed money? Tell us how that process went. Give us a little background on what does that take?
Well, correction, it's 10 million. 10 million in seed capital. So a friend of mine named Dawn Dixon was the first Black woman to raise $1 million under this regulation called the Jobs Act, put into law by Barack Obama and Joe Biden. And so the Jobs Act wiped out something called the accredited investor rule, which has been in place since 1933, which restricted any of us, the general public, no matter your age or your race or your gender. It was based on how much money you made. So if you did not make $200,000 a year for 2 years in a row, or have a net worth of $1 million minus your house, it was illegal for you to invest in early stage companies. Think about that. So this is 1933. So this is not about white, Black, or anything like that. It's about wealth. So imagine when the Apples of the world are being built, when the Microsofts of the world are being built, they're being built and invested in by already wealthy people that had the money to do so. And it was illegal for us. So the Jobs Act, created by Obama and Biden, that signed into law, whatever, they wiped out that rule. So any person can invest now, regardless of your net worth or annual income, can invest in an early stage company like mine up to $1 million in a calendar year. And that was right in from 2015 to 2020. I started raising capital during the middle of COVID. So I started raising my capital actually through the first year. I started raising on a platform called Start Engine in November of 2020, right in the middle of COVID. The SEC changed the regulation that you can raise up to 5 million in a calendar year, which changed the game for me. It's just perfect timing, because I don't think we would have been able to scale the company, without being able to raise that extra capital. And I raised so much money. I had this wait list of a bunch of money that people wanted to invest in the startup. So it worked out well. I did 3 rounds of funding on Start Engine, and that is an opportunity for me to raise capital, but also give equity and ownership to the people of fan base that use it, that are actually owners. So the minimum to invest, when you're doing these regulation crowd funds, are small amounts. My minimum was $250. So that's the price of a pair of Jordans, a steak dinner, something that some drinks at the club or whatever. But I can buy some stock in a tech startup.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that 3 times in a row to the tune of $10 million. And I'm the first black man, I'm the first black person to raise $10 million regulation crowdfunding, which is that first level, up to $5 million in a calendar year. I'm the first person to raise $10 million, black person doing that ever. So that is a history making thing. And
absolutely,
congratulations.
As a newbie, as my first time in the tech industry, I think it's pretty good. But I owe that to a lot of mentors, a lot of people that taught me about the tech industry. And then I honestly say this to even people that I mentor. I really also owe it to the development team and the team at Fanbase that built the product, because the product is the best form of marketing. I think when people were able to download Fanbase, use it, see its functionality, see its potential, they could really put their eyes and say, okay, I believe in this. I believe in Isaac, but equally, I believe in the ability for them to build product and continue to scale the business.
And I was going to say that I'm going to come back to the I believe in Isaac, but really quickly, I just wanted to say hello to some of the folks who are in the chat. I see Atlanta chiming in, people from all over. I see people in business. I see you guys putting down your companies. If you have a question for Isaac, feel free to drop it in the chat and I'll do my best to come back to it. If you have a question, please feel free to engage and get in on this chat. Now back to you, Mr. Hayes. When I say I believe in you, I don't even know you, but as I follow you on social media, to me, you come across as he did that by himself. He looks like a grassroots, go knocking door to door, convince you that man in that Spider-Man suit dancing. I feel like he had some shares or something in Fanbase. But tell me this, was there a team effort, or did you have to figure out how do I make this happen? Or was it all blood, sweat, and tears off your back? Did you say I needed to assemble? And what did that look like? If you could give advice to someone in business who are thinking about getting the next round of seed money, I heard I need to go to friends and family or church members or community members for the first round. If I want to go to the next level, what tip would you give them?
Well, I mean, investing in yourself is extremely important if you have the opportunity to do so. Like I said, I was fortunate enough to be able to borrow money from myself and put into my company. But I think you have to have the determination to really want to see your dream realized. And it's harder than people think it is, because I'm very serious. I mentor. If that's the case, then why is it cool I was in Vegas or, buy $5,000 worth of lottery tickets? You're not trying to save anybody's ass. You're just mad that I'm giving opportunity to people that want to invest in and have an opportunity to do so. So it takes a lot of hard work. I mean, this is not, when I raise, that becomes my life. When I raise capital, I don't do a lot anyway, but I mean, it really consumes my job, even more so as being CEO. I'm still CEO of Fanbase, but I'm actually 24 hours a day raising capital, thinking of ways to connect with people and get the message about how important it is to take advantage of opportunities like this, because people don't think that these small investments can turn into, large returns. They're not guaranteed, but you never get these chances anyway. So the fact that you get a chance, I say take the chance. If you're going to spend $250, $500, $600 on something else, you might as well put that money in a startup that you can believe in and help scale.
Speak to somebody who might be afraid of the tech world, who may say, I am absolutely uneducated about the tech world. I may have a good idea, but quite honestly, I'm afraid to get into tech. It's 2023. I'm hearing a lot about I'm hearing a lot about AI. I'm hearing a lot about startups, but I'm not sure if I have the information that is needed to get into the tech world. What would you say to a Black entrepreneur?
I mean, I'd say this, 2 things. One, you got to do your homework. Like I said, I had mentors. Before I ever built Fanbase, I had the idea in March, right? I came up with the idea in March of 2018. I didn't start building Fanbase till July. So first thing I did was trademark the name Fanbase in the class and territories that I wanted to do for the app that I wanted to build. So first thing I did is I protected my IP.
And the name is so perfect. Like it fell into line like crazy.
So I trademarked the name, and I was really surprised that I got it, because I was like, And I was like, class territory of a specific what we're going to do. And then March, April, May, June, July, I was mentored by 3 amazing people, Jewel Burks, Barry Gibbons, and Justin Dawkins. They're 3 successful individuals in the tech space right here in Atlanta, Georgia. I met them at a place called The Gathering Spot. And so I would ask them, okay, so what's a CTO? And what's their responsibility? And send me the Keynote file. And I put it in Keynote and started replacing fonts and images and words and started making the deck that I wanted to make in my vision. And so I'm a very, I've always dabbled in Photoshop and just everything. So I learned that. And then I learned about, ownership and equity and how much equity should a CTO have, or the fact that a CTO needs to have equity, that when you build your startup, your CTO should have equity in your company, because people are going to be hesitant to invest in somebody that is a temporary employee or a temporary service provider of something that you're trying to scale to a company. Fortunately enough for me, after building Fanbase, my CTO now was a development company, and he said, "Hey, we've been in business for about 10 years. We've never really seen anything kind of like Fanbase, and we actually want to invest in this." And I was like, "Well, that's great, because now I'll have someone that has equity in my company that is along for the ride, so is just as committed to building something successful as I am." And then investors can trust the fact that there will always be somebody there that can build whatever comes out of my brain. And that's how we're able to scale the company and do the things that we do. So you can't be afraid. You really have to do your homework. You got to try. I can't tell you that there's any one way. I know that I talked to a couple of developers. Initially, I tried to hire Black developers to build Fanbase, because I thought it was important that we do that. I was kind of like shunned or discarded, like, I wasn't taken seriously. So my attorney at the time just said, "Hey, I know a guy that builds websites. He has a development company. He lives in Atlanta. He's Argentinian. His team is in Argentina. You could probably save a lot of money on building Fanbase." I took a meeting, and that was it. So I think most success stories that you hear are not these pre-planned, strategized things. They're literally people just meeting on a whim and collaborating or connecting, and then it just turns into this great thing. So the first thing is, you don't ever put yourself in the path or frequency of success. You can't find success, so you have to try, and you might fail. You might have the wrong partner or the wrong person, and then you got to find somebody else, but you got to at least start.
I love that. And I wanted to ask that. I saw one comment saying that's a great question. Who do you know? Who can you trust? There are a lot of scams out there. There are a lot of people who, promise the sun, moon, stars, and quasars, but who do you trust? And it made me also wonder, you had this idea in 2019, here we are in 2023, and it's still yours. So back into being an entrepreneur and building generational wealth. How did you last so far without somebody coming along and saying, "Hey, that is such a great idea," and offering you, so much money in order to get it off your hands?
Well, hold on a second. So for me, couple things. One, I'm coming from the music business, so ownership is everything.
Yep.
So nothing's grimier than the music business. I keep saying this is funny, but it's like tech is a downhill. It's like, oh man, this is nothing compared to what people try to do in the music business. They're trying to sign your publishing and your master for 10 albums and manage you and steal all your IP and like, cool. So I understand that in when you write a song, like I've been part of records that have gone to sell 6-7 million copies, right? Singles. And I understand that I own maybe 10% of that. And I've made $500,000 off just 10% of a song. So I mean, if I own the more equity I have, then the more ability that I actually have to build wealth and have power and maintain control of my company. Secondly, I remember Steve Jobs, the great Steve Jobs. I remember that I can't think compartmental. We think, I was saying this today, we think like ice trays, right? Where we have individual trays of knowledge that we have, but we never mix them together. So my political mind, my creative mind, my business mind, my entrepreneurial mind, like all these beliefs, all these combining all these together gave me the idea or the understanding that this is something that needs to be bigger. So giving equity opportunity to the people that make the social media platforms what they are. Users are what makes Facebook and Instagram even, a functioning platform. If everybody left Instagram today and Facebook today, Facebook be worth $0.00. They're only that way because you're there.
Yeah.
You have all the power. You could decide to go somewhere else tomorrow. So I said, and I fully expect this to be illegal one day. I'm telling you. I said, I wonder if somebody built a social media platform that allowed people to invest, and then those people move to the platform, and by simply using the platform, they're increasing the value of an asset that they own. That's a good idea. So I'll do that. And then when I learned how much money these companies were making, and I'm talking about Facebook has a market cap of $800 billion. They make $113 billion of revenue every year, probably $30-40 billion of profit, and go, hey, have you guys ever given any money to the hood? These kids in the hood be making all these slang and these dances and the cool functionality that you use. Can you offer something to these creatives that and it's really young kids in Black culture that innovate your products? And they're like, no, they'll probably just tell you no, but keep making those dances. And so I'm like, we have to, if we don't own infrastructure, we're damaging ourselves. So understanding how Steve Jobs was smart enough to build Apple, but not smart enough to not get kicked out of Apple and fired. I had to understand the business side as a creative side. So when Zuckerberg came along, they made two classes of stock. They had common stock, which is non-voting, and they had voting stock. So I structured my company like Mark Zuckerberg structured Facebook. So I own all the voting shares in Fanbase. So I could wind up owning 4% of Fanbase, but still have all the control of the company, which is how Zuckerberg is. He doesn't own the majority of Facebook since they went public. So I understand that to build your company, you have to maintain control. If people don't know what happened to Sam Altman this last week, he was fired from a company he started. He was the CEO. He had a board. I don't have a board. So when you have a board, and especially with VCs, most VCs look at investing in startups like flipping real estate. 99% of venture capital is in it I want to put 100,000 and I want to get 500,000 out. You might not have that vision for your company. So if you get a board of 5 or 6 people and they say, man, look, Isaac took this company from $1 million to $5 million. Let's sell it. And you're like, no, I don't want to sell. I want to take it to a $100 million company. Doesn't matter. Your board is like, we're selling. They get their money back. They sell your idea and they say, go build something else. So I was like, I don't want that. I'm the 1%. I look at Fanbase as a Facebook, a TikTok, an Instagram. So I'm not trying to build it so that I can sell it, because it's gone from a $20 million valuation to a $50 million valuation to an $85 million valuation, which was a year ago. And since then, we've grown to over 525,000 users. So Fanbase's valuation is probably double that now. So even if I sold Fanbase today, it's cool that, all right, it's cool. I sold his company and made some money, but I would be no different than any Black, white, Asian, Latino tech woman, tech founder ever that just built a company and sold it for some money. What I want to do is I want to do for people what Oren Michaels was able to do with Uber. And people don't know the Oren Michaels story. If you know, Oren Michaels is one of the seed investors in Uber. Google this. Just look up Uber seed investors, Oren Michaels, and a little sheet will come up. But in 2010, he put $5,000 into Uber, just $5,000 as an investor. He was accredited, remember. He had to be rich. He was already rich.
Yeah.
When the company went public in 2019, his $5,000 was worth $24 million.
Wow.
Now I'm like, do you know how many street dudes I know with 5Gs?
Exactly.
That's right.
I'm not trying to be funny. I'm like, you know what I mean? Stripping. I could get 10 of my friends together. Imagine being able to get 10 of your friends together and putting $500 into Uber back in 2010, and it's worth $2.4 million in 2019. But they never told you about that.
No.
They never had. They're never letting you in that conversation. They don't even want you in the room to be able to have that to be able to flip. See, they want you to buy the stock after it's public, so they want you to earn a little bit over time over the next 30 years and get a little nest egg. No, I'm trying to do what the tech guys do. I'm trying to give that opportunity to everybody to say, look, you can put your money in now and then turn that into a multiple. Because when I exit, the eventuality of any startup is to either be acquired or go public. That is
Yeah.
the future of fan base. It will either be acquired by someone or it will go public. And when it goes public, the people that have shares in it can share their shares on the stock market, or when it's acquired, the owner will buy everybody out at the increased valuation of whatever that number is. And then instead of it just being me that's rich, it's the people that help get me there that are also rich, including my CTO, including the people that use the app, right? And I'm not, and I speak, I sound crazy when I say this, and that's fine because I understand you got to dream big, but like I look at Fanbase as $100 billion company. Like Facebook has a market cap of $900 billion. I believe that Fanbase could be as big as Facebook, but I'll just say $100 billion. And that type of growth, going from a $20 million company to a $100 billion company, that's a 5,000x return too. Mm-hmm. So imagine you put $256 in the very first round of Fanbase, and you turn around and one day I exit or IPO for $100 billion, and that $250 is worth $1.24 million. You'll be like, holy shit.
Yes.
And that is my intentional goal to do that. I always think about Bob Johnson created the most millionaires when he sold BET. He created the most black millionaires ever. I want to obliterate that. I want to demolish that record with Fanbase. I want to one day exit this company at some insane valuation that turns people that put $250, $500, $5,000, $10,000 into millionaires, multimillionaires, 100 millionaires. And it will be the largest distribution of wealth to black people in the history of this entire company. That's what I'm looking to do.
There it is.
So listen, I have two questions.
Huh?
On the back of that, give us the playbook. For anybody watching now, how can all of us make money with Fanbase? Sydney says, I know that's right. Keep dropping the gems. Tell us right now, give us the playbook. What does that look like? How can we make money with Fanbase or using Fanbase? So
I just closed my third round because now I'm at a point where I have to raise larger amounts of capital, right? Large, like we've raised 10 million in 3 years. Mm-hmm. I'm probably going to need to raise 20 million in a year. And that will probably require venture capital to be able to do so. But if there's ever another opportunity to invest in Fanbase the way that I have done it, I'll make sure everybody is the first to know about it. I can never say when in these regulations, I can never announce that I'm doing it's illegal to tell people you're doing something. It's really weird. There's a lot of rules. You can't tell people you're raising the money before you raise the money. You got to just put it out there and say, I'm raising. So if that ever happens, I'll be the first person to say that. But you can actually make money using the platform too. And that's the disruptive part about Fanbase. And this is another thing that I stand on when people say I'm standing on business. Yeah. Like I'm gonna stand on this business right now. Before the year December 2019, there was no such thing as an app where you could click buttons and subscribe to people using your phone. Mm-hmm. So if I were to take my phone right now and go to Fanbase, which I'm on right now, and I were to pull up anybody's profile that I see, right, and show you guys on camera, live on camera, that I want you to see this, and hit a button, and you see like that where it looks like, let me turn this brightness down so you can really see this, because this is history. No one did this before me. So you see how you can click, see how you can subscribe, and then I hit a button, and it pops up, and then that little like that, and you subscribe directly to a person. That didn't exist before 2019. I invented that. So when you see this on Instagram, when you see this on TikTok, when you see this on Twitter, when you see this on Facebook, when you see this on Snapchat, know that this is the person that invented this. I changed the way that Apple does subscriptions. I changed the way that Google does subscriptions, because now you are the Netflix. You are the person that does that. That did not exist. Apple wouldn't let me build this at first. I was very nervous because I had spent $200,000 of my own money, and Apple was like, no, you can't build that. And I was like, why? And it was like, they had these rules, long, convoluted rules. And they were like, no. And I'm being specific. You can always subscribe to somebody by going in your wallet and pulling out your credit card and using the CVV number and entering your address and all that. But the ability to say, oh, if I'm Drake, I can put content behind a paywall and charge $4.99, and then boom, I can have millions of subscribers, and that money comes directly to me. That's a game changer, because that means he circumvents the label. That means athletes circumvent the teams. That means actors and actresses circumvent the studios. So when I think about people monetizing their fan base, I say the average American salary in this country is between $47,000 and $60,000 a year. That's just the truth. But think about people do you know anybody that has 1 million followers on social media? I know people with 13 million followers and they broke.
Yeah.
Right? They broke.
Yeah.
But 5,000 people, just 5,000 people paying you $2.50 a month, subscribing to your content is $12,500 a month, $150,000 a year. That's more than 97% of Americans make. And that's just 5,000 people.
So did y'all hear this? Because I was wondering as well. So it isn't just for celebrities who have these crazy following. If I'm an influencer, I have any type of following, I can be on this fan base app making money. If I'm just an electrician, I got people following me trying to see what I do. It doesn't matter. I can get on this fan base and make money.
The truth about this is, these are these silos that we don't understand. The gamers, the sex workers have been doing it for the last 15 years. Mm-hmm. The podcasters just started the last 6 or 7 years having subscriptions. Like they're people people don't understand. This is what I mean by we think in silos. I say this all the time. This is some not rated R, what I'm about to say, but I've known exotic dancers that have left strip clubs and gone to OnlyFans, and they're making millions on OnlyFans. But yet, right now, there's women getting ready to go to the strip club. Why are they not doing the same thing that we think in silos? Like we just think like that. I know people that have had podcasts for the last 7 years, haven't made a dime. I know people that are monetizing their podcaster subscription and making $100,000 a month. Mm-hmm. We just think in these silos. Once people understand that subscriptions are coming in a way that the world is not ready for, a lot of people are going to get caught off guard. The ones that are ready and start today will own the world. They'll be some of the wealthiest people on the planet.
Please tell them, how do they start today, Isaac? Let them know.
I tell people all the time, you have to try. You literally have to try. Meaning, the thing is, social media has convinced all of us that our content doesn't have value, that it's free. And by doing so, you are freely giving them real estate to run advertising in between and run ads. That's how these companies make money. So when I see someone like The Rock, right? The Rock has 293 million followers on Instagram, right? He doesn't reach 290 million people every time he posts a piece of content, right? Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, it's 300. Matter of fact, Rock is like 300. It's some crazy amount. It's 300 plus, 300 and something million, right? And so my point is that Facebook knows that if The Rock could reach 328 million people every time he posted on Instagram, brands would come directly to The Rock and say, "Hey, Rock, run this commercial on your page just like it's NBC or CBS or ABC, because you have 4 times the visibility of the Super Bowl, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week." That's it. They would always come to him. They would not even run ads on Facebook or Instagram. So these platforms smush your visibility down. Go to The Rock's page on Instagram right now. He got 392 million followers, right? Go to his videos. You'll see 7 million, 24 million, 11 million, 6 million, 2 million. They'll never let him reach that full audience, because the brands would come and pay him to run ads and not pay Facebook and Instagram. So they do that to everybody on social media. Mm-hmm. So with fan base, I'm like, I don't get, if you wind up with 390 million people following you on fan base, if you post something, we're sending it to 390 million people, because I don't care about that free part. I just want the 5%. I want the 19,500,000 people that are The Rock's fan base, because everybody that follows you is not a fan of you. It's about 5%, 3 to 5% of those people. So if you got 1 million followers, you got 50,000 fans. If you got 100,000 followers, 5,000 people really rock with you. That's your fan base. That's why I call it fan base, because everybody is a fan of something, and we all have a fan base. It might be 5 people, 50 people, 500 people, 5,000, 500,000.
Wow.
But when we get into the space of monetizing to the point of, okay, you can charge anywhere between $2.99 and $99.99 a month on fan base for a subscription price. But let's play the numbers game real quick, and I'll say this all the time. Name some. I can pick a celebrity out of my phone right now and tell you how much money that they're not making on social media that they could be making.
Listen, so I already know we are missing the mark. There are tons of us missing the mark. And listen, I feel like
Little Yachty, right? So Little Yachty has Little Yachty has 12 million followers on Instagram. If you can see that, 12 million, right?
Yeah.
So that means his fan base is 600,000 people, right? So let's just take 600,000 people and say Little Yachty says, okay, I'm going to take when I'm in the studio with Drake making albums and songs, I'm going to make that content. My private life, I'm going to make that content. When I'm on tour, I'm going to make that content, right? I'm going to take all my content and put it behind a paywall, and I'm going to charge $4.99 a month, right? Just $4.99 a month. He'll make $3.50 a subscriber. The real split, the usual split on fan base is 50-50. But for someone like Yachty, I'm not going to take a percentage of the profit because I want Yachty's audience and he's going to bring audience to my platform. So he'll make $3.50 a subscriber. And that $3.50 a subscriber, that's $2.1 million a month. That's $25 million a year.
Wow.
Wait, paying him that's Little Yachty.
You are blowing our minds with the possibilities of fan base. Listen, I know people in the chat still have questions. Please let them know where they can find you and follow up with some more information.
Look, I only talk about fan base now. Like fan base. So the only thing you can do right now is go to the App Store and download fan base and make a profile. Now, something else that I did do, which was I had the team build a program. And this is something that's extremely important. As I learn, I tell. Yeah. I'm a snitch. I'm a snitch. I'll tell you right now, I'm snitching. Call me a snitch. As soon as I learn some bullshit that they do, I'm snitching.
Listen.
So anyway, I built a program that allows you to copy all of your content from Instagram and paste it over on Fanbase. It stays on Instagram, but it copies the captions, the photos, the videos, and pastes it over. The same thing you can do with TikTok. So you can move all your stuff over and start there. So you're not starting from scratch where nobody knows you know, no content, looks really, really boring. That. So
listen, I'm going to have you back for a part 2 because I feel like I need a total walk through the entire fan base app, period. But thank you so much. I know I have some more questions in the chat, but we're going to have to come back to you guys in the chat. We may figure out how to get Isaac back on here to do just that and walk us through some more crowdfunding and everything I know he is filled with. But thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for blowing our minds, sir.
No problem. I'm glad. Just tell everybody, just download Fanbase on the App Store. Meet us over there. We just launched chat rooms and audio. If you've ever been on Clubhouse, important. I built audio chat into Fanbase because the first 1 million people that got on Clubhouse asked to invest, and they were mainly Black people, and they said no, and then they raised $100 million at $1 billion valuation. And I said, we're building chat because we blew Clubhouse up. Yeah. So I do audio chat. Everybody move over there. Let's blow Fanbase up. So we have chat rooms now. So you can have audio chat like Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces. Those rooms are there, and that's important to show. But also at the same time, we built these chat rooms today. So now even if you're in the audience, you can actually chat and be part of the conversation. So I always say that when you think about this, I say this all the time. I can build anything that Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all these platforms can build. They can't build me. They can't build us. So when you see this.
Yes.
So this is just like Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces. So they're having these conversations, and then there's chat rooms that are going on inside these rooms now. So
wow.
Yeah,
well, we have to wrap. I want to make sure we get back with you. I'm gonna have to have Phil tap you back because there's so much more to get into for Fanbase. I want to hear the vision for the long haul. But thank you again to Isaac Hayes III for coming on with this. Founder of Fanbase. Thank you.
Well done, bro. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Wow. Talk about reimagining Black Wall Street. I don't think back when they had Black Wall Street, they could imagine today where we would be digitally. So my mind is blown talking to him, but he blew my mind so much with the crowdfunding and the seed and first round, second round conversation that I gotta bring in our next guest for today, Phil. I'm excited to talk to him, Mr. Zach Ellis Jr. Please welcome him on the conversation today. Hello, Zach. Thank you for your patience.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Hey, Zach.
Good to have you. Now, you are the managing partner at South Loop Ventures. We were just talking to Isaac, and he had a philosophy on how to do it yourself. So I'm going to ask you off back. Give me your perspective on when should an entrepreneur go with crowdfunding on their own versus getting with the VC. Please let us know your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I was listening to Isaac's comments on it, and pretty much what he alluded to, right? You typically get to a point where you need so much money that you can't go to individuals to fund the next stage of development, right?
Yeah.
And in his case, he was able to get to a certain point crowdfunding on his own before he needed that money. In other spaces of technology, you need all that money up front, right? Like you may not have a certain network, you may not have a certain savvy or charisma, you might not have whatever it is, right? Or if you're building in certain technology spaces like pharmaceuticals or AI or big data, you just might need so much capital that and your business may not generate revenue off the bat, and so you need capital up front to launch what it is you're doing. And so in those instances, if you have a high growth business and you need a lot of capital up front, then you're probably a candidate for venture capital. And the high growth part of it is a pretty critical piece of like the model, because venture capitalists, when they invest their money, they're looking to get it back, which he also alluded to, within a certain window, right?
Yeah.
There's timing involved. Like I want to get in the market here and I want to get out there, and I want to have made so much over that time frame. And so because there aren't dividends or rents that you might get with a real estate investment, venture capitalists are looking to get their money back within a certain time window at a certain scale to make up for all that missed cash flow in the interim.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. I left radio for a second and went to work in New York, still in the entertainment industry on the record side. And I recall one of my first meetings in New York, one of the partners asked, "How many millionaires do you know?" And I was like, that's an odd question for somebody to ask you. How many millionaires do I know? But he wanted an answer. He wanted to know, who did I have access to? So it was a pertinent question for some things that we would do later. But having you on today, it made me think, how many venture capitalists do we know or do we have access to? So let me ask you, what made you become a venture capitalist?
Wow. What made me become a venture capitalist was the ambition of really having an impact in society, right, in a special way. So let me take you sort of back to my sort of origin story. I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana. Shout out to all my Whodats out there. And I joined the military out of high school. I went to the Naval Academy, became an officer in the Navy, thought I was going to be the Black Maverick flying jets. Didn't end up doing that. But as I transitioned out of the military, I knew I wanted to do something in the commercial sector that I thought would be as impactful to the world as having served in the military. So I looked for sort of like very mission driven sorts of jobs. And so for me, that original stop was healthcare.
Okay.
I became a strategy consultant in healthcare and went to work for this large health insurance company. And after a couple of months, found myself doing like billing and enrollment process optimization, and figured out like this is not what I signed up to do. And so as I looked for other opportunities and looked for roles that I felt fit my personality, I came across their corporate innovation group. And it was that group that was playing video games and riding bicycles and walking on treadmills and trying to see if, I play this, this VR boxing game, can I burn enough calories to sort of lose some weight or reduce my incidence of diabetes and things like that. And I'm like, I can't believe you guys get paid to do this. Yeah. And so that experience was what led me to want a career in venture capital. And so I initially doubled down on healthcare. I got into biotechnology because, again, for me, it was all about improving lives. And so I looked to help develop like biopharmaceuticals and biotherapeutics, medical devices, et cetera. And that just sort of carried me on this sort of journey through technology commercialization, corporate venture capital, corporate innovation, corporate strategy, and then eventually venture capital and starting my own fund.
Yeah, and as you guys can see below, he's worth his weight. He's had some experience when it comes to what he does. He didn't just fall into it. I know it sounds like that with what he's sharing. It sounds like he just fell into it, but this is years of experience. Let me ask you this: some of the people that we have on today are entrepreneurs or small business owners themselves. When would they use a VC versus trying to go a different route to get capital?
Yeah. Again, it comes back to the nature of your business, right? So if you're launching a restaurant, if you're launching a barbershop, if you're launching a car dealership even, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are, because of the growth rates of those businesses,
Mm-hmm.
right? Those are very well understood businesses that grow at a certain clip because of the amount of investment you have to put into, whether it's buying cars or food and refrigerator infrastructure and the money you can make.
Mm-hmm.
Those businesses are just typically not fit for venture capital. Venture capital investment looks to build businesses that not only can grow rapidly, but part of the reason they grow so rapidly is because they're usually technology based.
Okay.
And that technology is usually software, but not always. Again,
Mm-hmm.
there's a life sciences sector which doesn't involve software. But the idea is that because we're developing software, we're able to achieve a certain scale within a shorter than normal time frame, right? If you think about Mark Zuckerberg building Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
he just coded all night for several nights. Next thing you know, he flipped the switch, and then everybody's got access to download Facebook or log onto it on their computers, right? Netflix, sort of the same way. The amount of scale you're able to reach, the amount of people and customers you're able to touch is a lot cheaper, and it goes a lot faster than if you have to build a plant or you have to cut down a bunch of trees in order to build your product.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a critical element of deciding whether or not you are a fit for venture capital. Software is a big part of it. In the life sciences, again, and then there are other analogous spaces, but that's usually a big piece.
And let me ask you this, because when we think about VC, or when I'm thinking about VCs, I'm thinking about just how to get money to do something I'm doing. But with you being a managing partner at South Loop Ventures, let us know, what does that mean when you're managing a fund?
Yeah, so managing the fund it's like 4 or 5 different jobs all in one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't invest money unless you have money.
Right.
So the first skill is fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to go out to bigger investors and raise capital around your vision for a fund. And so you've got to say, hey, I'm going to go invest in the next wave of artificial intelligence companies, blah, 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 the next open AI, or whatever that case might be. And you get a lot of really large investors who manage billions or even trillions under management, and you get them to break off little pieces of that and give that to you.
Yeah.
Right. And then once you build up your fund, you then go find founders who are building the types of companies you want to invest in. The next Google, the next Facebook, the next Uber, the next Lyft, whatever it is, you go find those businesses and you invest in them. And you could have a focus on certain parts of the country, certain types of technology, certain types of founders, women founders, Black founders, Latino founders, LGBTQ founders, a blend of all those, subsections of those only in Illinois. You can kind of slice it up any way you want to, as long as you're able to convince someone to give you the money to go invest, because you've convinced them that that's an opportunity to make a lot of money and multiply the dollars they gave you by 2, 3, or 4, and then you can sort of start that business.
Okay, Zach, I'm gonna go out on a limb. I feel like somebody in the chat's gonna want to know this. What works for Zach? If we're pitching to Zach, and what's gonna get Zach on the hook? If we're pitching, what's gonna pique your interest when someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm trying to raise funds. Would you work with me?" Like, what are things that you look for?
Yeah, so I look for, first and foremost, a really strong founding team, right? You hear a lot of investors call this founder market fit. Basically a match between you as the founder of the business and the market you're going into, right? So whether it's because you've worked in the music industry for the last 20 years, or you've got a PhD in basket weaving from the best basket weaving school in America. Like you're trying to find the fit that says this person knows a lot or has discovered a lot or figured out something special about a certain market and market niche. And I think as a result, they're going to exploit that niche and make me a ton of money. Right. It all starts there. So once you find that founder market niche, Zach then dives into understanding that market. Like, what are the trends around this market? What are the dynamics? Is this market growing? Is it shrinking? Is it being consolidated? Like, what are the dynamics? Do I think that this market is going to help carry this business? And then you look at competition, like who else is doing what you're doing or some version thereof? What's the status quo look like? If you're trying to build the next Tesla, what do I think your chances are of disrupting General Motors, Ford, Toyota, Mercedes, et cetera, et cetera?
I love that. And I want to make sure we I'm stepping in for Sky, Zach. So I'm not as fancy as her with hosting. She's a professional, but I have gotten to know you. And I want to thank you again for coming on this platform. I mean, between what Isaac stated and what you're stating, I think we're educating a lot of entrepreneurs who are thinking about building tech and tech-enabled companies. I want to go over that list one more time. It was founding team.
Start with the team.
And I've heard a lot of entrepreneurs mention that, especially I've seen other Black founders who got they've exhausted themselves trying to go at it alone. And both you and Isaac kind of hit on this. Like, you got to find the right team. You got to find the right mentors. So in the second one, it was making sure that you have a good product. Did you have a good product and that there's a product market fit? Did you understand the industry? You mentioned, and did I get that right? Is that the second?
So one thing I didn't touch on about the team, right? Like it should be, it doesn't have to always be, but it's better when it is an actual team, right? Like, you're not by yourself, right?
Right.
There's someone who complements your knowledge, complements your skills, or just is someone to challenge you when you think, okay, we got to go left. And you need someone else to say, no, I think we should go right this time. And sort of is keeping you on track. And if one person's the business mind, you need someone who's the technical mind. Someone's the marketing mind, someone should be the finance mind, right? So you get that yin and yang of complementary skill set. So first is the team, and then there's a team market fit. Okay. Basically means, what does this team know about this market space that makes the fit unique? Then there's the market itself. Is this an attractive market? Is it growing? Is it shrinking? Like, if you want to build a business for renting movies, you want to build Blockbuster, I'm like, I don't think people are going to be renting movies anymore. I think they've figured out other ways to get access. And then there's the product and the product market fit, right? So what is it you're building? How does that fit within this market? You want to build electric vehicles in a space where there are no electric vehicles. Okay, how do I think current trends are going to support that, right? Are gas prices rising? Is electrification getting cheaper and cheaper? Is the ability to charge vehicles diffuse enough across the country? Is battery storage strong enough? All the things that you need to build your business, I need to understand and figure out, okay, is there a fit here, and are the sort of underlying trends supportive of that? And then there's competition. If you're Fisker, do I think you're going to stand up well against Tesla? If you're Rivian, do I think you're going to stand up well against Tesla? Do you have your own special niche because you're pickup trucks, or you going toe to toe, and I think you might get crushed, right? So those are the things that sort of lay out the sort of investment sort of plan around a particular company.
All right. We have a question from the audience. It says, where do you see the future of VCs, especially in our current, markets that we have in our economy? What would you say to that?
I think the future of VC is diverse, first and foremost, right? I think people are figuring out how to get capital in the hands of people who are being overlooked and underserved, right? As I describe it, there's a lot of genius being left on the table. And most of that genius is Black and female, I should say minority and female, right? Black, Latino, Southeast Asian, et cetera, et cetera. People who traditionally don't get venture capital, they're just kind of being ignored. And so there's a lot of market opportunity that's being left on the table as a result. And so there's a lot of effort to create fund managers who look like these founders, these genius founders who need this capital, because diverse investors typically invest in diverse founders, right? Like that study has been done. We've looked at that for the past, decade, and it's borne out that diverse investors support diverse entrepreneurs. And so I think that's only going to continue as the word spreads about this opportunity, about the ways to make money, to multiply your money, the ways that wealth is being created through tech companies, as STEM is increasingly pushed through channels of education, and people realize what they can build through coding and other forms of entrepreneurship. And I think you're going to see power go to the people who know how to connect with those founders, right? Like this isn't the type of trend that traditional white male investors can just jump on because they have the money. As we know in our communities, trust is a really big factor, and so we trust people who look like us, who have similar stories to us, who come from where we come from, and can resonate and understand not only our challenges and the problems we're trying to solve, whether that's in our community or not, but just our journeys and how we got to where we are. So that's a special element of this. And I think as more and more funds get created that are led by underrepresented and diverse fund managers, you're going to see a lot more capital start to flow to these founders. And as they disrupt markets with new products, I think you're going to find that there's a lot more success to be had across the board for our folks.
I love that. And before I turn it back over to you, Sky, I had to fill in your role for just a quick second. But we have Black Founders Day coming up this Friday. And it's going to be an amazing opportunity for those who are listening, who are entrepreneurs, who are listening to Zach and listening to Isaac, and they're saying, hey, this is for me, or you've already been on that journey to be a tech founder. It's an opportunity for you to get $20,000 to maybe it's pre-venture, or if you're even in your seed money, to help you take it to the next level. Sky, I want to ask Zach, what are some of the trends and technologies that you are seeing, and what would you tell people to look at, whether it's machine learning or artificial intelligence, as they build their startups and their enterprises?
Right now, the biggest trend in technology and venture capital is artificial intelligence by far. Thanks to companies like OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, et cetera, there's access to artificial intelligence platforms that people can incorporate into their businesses. You basically build what's called an API, which is just think of it as a plug and socket that takes your technology and plugs it into something else that can feed you a bunch of data or enable your technology to do specialized things. AI is transforming everything from how we search information, right? Like, I hate to put people on the spot, but the way you Google today will not be the way you Google tomorrow. There are platforms out there where you can talk to it just like I'm talking to you right now, and that AI will go out and read every blog post, every website out there, figure out which one has the best options for you based on your tastes, your preferences, and anything else you've given it, debates online, and it will spit out an answer perfectly curated for you. So if you say, what's the best Chinese food I should go try this Saturday, it will figure it out based on your specific taste profile. If you've already told it, I like this, but not that, and I like that, but not the other. It's pretty powerful, and it's disrupting everything from, again, where you go eat to where you go to the movies to healthcare, clothing, you name it.
Another question came through, and as we're trying to position our founders so that they can take this pathway for technology and hopefully get access to venture capital dollars, the question was, have you ever been, or do you have a scenario where you've been sold on a founder and then you had to take a pass on them? I mean, we're trying to eliminate some of those obstacles and barriers that our Black founders are facing. So can you talk about a situation where maybe you were going to invest in a founder, no matter if they're a minority or what the color may be, but because something changed about that founder, you decided to go in a different direction?
I'd say it happens all the time. I don't think those scenarios are all that rare, and so I'll just give you a couple examples. Um, I could think of an entrepreneur I was ready to invest in. Love the entrepreneur, love the business, love the market, everything they were doing, but had negotiated the term sheet, which is the document that sort of outlines the terms of the investment, how much you're going to get, at what valuation, what the sort of development plan is over the next 18 to 24 months, and decided to pause because the founder had some interesting developments with a particular customer that they thought were going to radically change their business and put them in a different position so that where they felt like they could raise money on better terms that were more favorable to them, which in that scenario allowed me to sort of observe this founder build and sort of further de-risk the investment for me. So in my opinion, it was a win-win where that founder was able to go execute on the contract, make some money, prove out certain things that I probably still had some questions about, and then provide the opportunity to re-engage at a later point where, it's either at a better place and now I've gotten more confidence. And now granted, I may have to pay a higher price, but I've got, a proof point that, hey, this company is doing what I thought it would do or doing it better than I thought it would do it. And now I can invest. Other times, the market just shifts. Something, it could be something bad that happens. It could be something that indifferent that happens. Sometimes contracts fall through and has the exact same effect. Like, we thought we were going to raise on certain terms because, certain things were falling into place, and now those things haven't fallen into place. And you can either change the terms, or if the founder really wants those terms, they say, well, just give me 6 months to go back and fix these things, either sort of get this relationship back on track or get this customer back on track, and then we can reconnect, right? Now, granted, you need to have certain amount of capital in the bank to have that flexibility and dexterity. But there are lots of reasons why deals either pause or fall through at the last minute. Sometimes you just lose faith. Like sometimes it's just like, as you're drafting the investment memo, you're like, this isn't, now that I'm writing it out and reading what I'm writing, like, this is such a good idea after all. And, that happens too sometimes.
No, I know I want to have a few more questions in case our audience, they have additional questions. But as you talked about term sheets, and we've heard like even rappers mention like cap tables. And these are some of the things that, quite frankly, I think I may be familiar with because I'm an attorney or an entrepreneur, but some of the entrepreneurs don't know what these terms look like. And so when we're dealing with bankers, we've went through those experiences, whether it's getting our car, or student loans, or buying and getting a mortgage, but we've never went through that experience with the venture capitalist as a founder of a technology or innovation startup company. Can you explain just somewhat at a high level what it looks like from a pre-venture stage and approaching your first venture capitalist, and what those deals look like, just from like the legal standpoint, the structure, negotiating, and what its success looks like at the end for a founder?
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a big
I know, right?
All right. I'm going to have to suck up some air for a second.
Right.
So when you start a company, right, you incorporate the business, and let's say it's you and one other founder. You own that business 50-50. Right. And if you know you're going into this to build a tech company and raise venture capital, you're going to do this typically as a Delaware C corporation. If you want to do it in the most sophisticated way possible, off the rip, you're going to do it as a Delaware C corp, not an LLC. And you're going to own that with your co-founder 50-50. And so as you get your prototype going and get some early traction, et cetera, you're getting excited. You're ready to now go raise a what's called a pre-seed round of funding, which is typically something that either helps you finish a prototype or discover product market fit, you're going to invite this investor onto your cap table, right? So you're going to go from owning 50-50 with your founder to something less than 50-50 with this investor. So typically investors like to come in and acquire somewhere between 20 and 30% of your company at a time, on average. Occasionally it's as little as 10%. Sometimes in really bad situations, it's more than 30, but on average, what's usually called a syndicate of investors will usually take up between 20 and 30%. So let's say they take 25. So now that's 25% to your syndicate of investors, and 75% split between you and your co-founder. And then the next round comes, you build, you find product market fit, you realize the product's amazing, and now you're ready to scale. So now you're ready to do a seed round, or maybe you jump to a Series A, you approach some more investors, they're going to come in and take another 25% of the round. What's typically going to happen at that point is not only will you take the 25% hit from them, but they're usually going to mandate that you create what's called an option pool for your employees. So now as you would attract, because you're getting bigger, you need to hire employees. If the two founders are a CTO and a CEO, you now need a COO, or you need a head of sales, or you need a head of engineering, or any number of roles. You need to hire those roles and retain them. And because cash is very precious at this stage of a company's life, you incentivize them to stick around through equity in the business. And also because the company may not last another 18 to 24 months. At the end of that investment period, the company may close down because you figured out, it doesn't scale the way we thought it would, or customers outside of the Southeast really don't like it. Any number of reasons the company might die, right? So for taking on that risk and rocking with you, you're going to incentivize these, and because you're probably paying them less than market rates, you're going to incentivize these new employees with equity in your business. And so an investor will usually stipulate that you need to reserve an additional 10 to 15% of equity in your business for employees. And so now you've given away, or not given away, but you've essentially sold 25% to your first round of investors. You're now going to sell another 25% to your second round of investors, and you're going to tack on an additional 10 to 15% for employees, and then you and your co-founder then split the rest. And then this just continues to go round after round after round until you either get acquired or you go public. Now, usually what that means is, and this is something that Isaac talked about, when you get acquired, let's say you're, you're coming up with a communication device, and you get bought by Apple. Apple decides to buy you for $1 billion, right? Well, it's usually taking you 3, 4, 5 rounds of investment to get to that point, selling 20 to 30% every time. And so by the time you get acquired, you and your co-founder might be splitting 10%, maybe less, where you own 5% and they own 5%. But the good news is, you, instead of owning 50% of something that was only worth $1, right, or $2, if you both put in $1,
right,
it's now worth $1 billion. And so now you own 5% of $1 billion. And yeah, that's a much better outcome, right? So if you go public, it's a similar sort of math.
Amazing. Anybody who's listening, you just heard a masterclass on again, how to start a tech company, how to raise capital, and the pathway you're going to creating generational wealth. This is Reimagining Black Wall Street. If you're out there, give a round of applause for Zach Ellis Jr. We certainly appreciate your time this evening. Zach, I'm hoping you'll come back for Black Founders Day. We would love to have you there during the day where we'll be talking about tech, innovation, cybersecurity, more legalities around creating your startup. Zach touched on it. If I were you, I would play this whole video back, chat GPT words you don't know, and then come prepared on Black Founders Day on Friday to pitch your startup for $20,000. Tomorrow, we'll be on day 4 of Black Entrepreneurs Week. We're kicking off our Black Wealth Summit. You do not want to miss it. It's at Emancipation Park Conservancy. Make sure you go online, www.blackentrepreneursweek.com. Get registered. We'll send out more information. But everything that both Isaac and Zach talked about is about creating wealth. And if you don't have your financial house in order at home, there's no way you can create a business because it'll be unstable. And we're trying to teach you how to do both this week. Zach, thank you again for your time. Have a wonderful evening. Look forward to seeing you in person on Friday. Everybody else out there, guys, enjoy your evening. We'll see you in the morning at 10 o'clock, Emancipation Park Conservancy for Black Entrepreneurs Week. And that's all, folks. Have a good night.
Thanks for having me.